tonight's show, Him, written and directed by George Lister and produced by Flynn, Burgess. Tonight's show is around an hour and 15 minutes, and because of this, we would like that as soon as the show's ended, and I've done the end of show announcement, if you could all leave the barn as quick as possible, just so this show has enough time for they get out, and then the next show has enough time for they get in. Just to flag, the fire exits are through backstage and through the way you came. The content warnings are on the boards in the front, and just so you're aware, there is one moment in the play where there is audience participation, so enjoy.
From now on, will devote myself exclusively to the theatre, as I can see them. A theatre of blood. A theatre which, with each performance, will have done something bodily. Antonato is a man who knew how to love something completely. He lived and died by the theatre, to love something so completely that is how life should be lived. He wrote that 8 days before he died. 8 days. It was the last thing he ever wrote, a manifesto of dedication to an art, to the body itself. And then he just went and fucking died. Even as a kid, I wanted to be in love. I wanted to love and be loved more than I wanted to breathe. Most kids dreamt of being princesses or astronauts, or in the case of my brother, a rich banker like the one in Mary Poppins. Never really understood that was a bad guy. I just wanted someone to love me. I wanted someone I could give my heart to, who, 8 days before I die, could move me to write something just as profound as Arto. I would like to introduce myself. My name is irrelevant. So is everybody else's names, which is great because it's not about them. I would say this is less of a show and more of an essay. Somehow I managed to trick the ODM choosing people committee thing into letting me put on my critical essay. Thanks for that. I've never been much good at writing essays, but if I remember what my A-level English lit teacher Miss Crompton said, start with a sentence that clearly states your intention. So here goes. This is about love. This is about complicated, messy love. About what love can be, should be, could be. All of it. And we're going to be looking at it through a case study. It's me. I'm the case study. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take you through some stories from my life, and by the end of it there's going to be some sort of conclusion. Some final decision about what love is. And then the audience, that's you, are going to leave thinking, wow, what a great show. / essay. / biography. And I'm going to feel mildly embarrassed because I'm going to have taken you through the nitty-gritty, the scandal and the sex, the mornings and the evenings. And you are going to see how much of a deplorable human being I am. But I've written it now, and you're all in your seats, and I think we're about past the point of calling it off. So I think we should start. We're going to start at the very beginning, because as Julie Andrews once said, it is a very good place to start. I came out when I was very young. I think for a long time we all thought I was going to be one of those people with a really boring coming out. Like most things in my life, everyone knew I was gay before I did. My grandma likes to tell me the story about when Mum was pregnant with me, and her and Dad were round at Grandma's, and the conversation went something like this. Emma would like Christmas cake for the wedding. Would you like anything special, Jason? My dad was silent for a second. Then he looked at my mum and went, he's going to be gay. I guess coming out was never really a big deal. Dad got a letter. He came home after a night out, and I'd been babysitting my little brother and sister, and it went something like this. Hi Dad, I've cleaned the kitchen, Oliver and Emily were fine. Also, I'm gay, good night. A masterpiece of English literature, I know. But after that, I think everyone thought that was it. And then I learnt about all the different letters and sexualities, and everything just got a little bit complicated. I just say I'm queer. I realised I was queer when I was watching the 8th episode of the 3rd season of the CBBC show Young Dracula. It's called Bad Vlad. And the main character, yeah, Vlad. He just looked into the magic evil mirror hidden in the basement of the school they were living in at the time. And when he looked into the mirror, he got all of his evil vampire powers and became like evilest version of himself. It was very sexy. Anyway, then he was possessed by the spirit of true evil and was trying to kill and eat Erin, the girl he was in love with. It was really hot to me. Not the killing of women. Not the killing of women. I don't support the killing of women or eating them. Cannibalism is not okay. But in the case of a drama comedy about the vampire chosen one intended for preteens, it's incredibly sexy. A man who just didn't care what he wanted. He could rip your heart out and hold it in his hand. A man who's powerful. That is what's hot to me. Dad fished. He loved to fish. He fished cod and haddock and fish. I don't know anything about fishing. I'm allergic to fish, so he always found it really hard to talk to me about it. When you got in a fish for dinner, I can't eat fish, Dad. When you got in a fish for dinner, you have to make sure you squeeze all the shit out. Ugh, gross, Dad. Squeeze it like a pimp. Squeeze the shit out. I am not squeezing the shit out of a fish, Dad. This is why you're a disappointment. Okay, so he didn't say exactly that. He might as well have. He was just never really there. At least not since Mum died. He always made sure there was a wall between us. And Mum always made sure there was 6 feet of dirt between us. Now that is what you call an emotionally distant parent. She killed herself when I was 8. Don't really remember her. The day Dad picked me up from school, which he'd never done before. Why are you picking me up? Because I am. Where's Mum? Dad, where's Mum? She's busy. Too busy to pick me up from school? Yes. What's she doing? Dad, what's she doing that means she's too busy to pick me up from school? Because it's a really important job, Dad. If you weren't here, then I would have been stuck at school, and how would I have gone home, Dad? 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 How would I have gone home? Your mother was too busy killing herself to pick you up from school, you ungrateful piece of shit! That was the first swear word I ever heard. Dad doesn't cry. He does not cry. He's the kind of man who tells you not to cry. And he means it the best way, like he'll tell you to man up and stop crying. But what he means is, let's solve the problem so there's nothing left to cry about. How do you solve the problem with your dead wife and scared child? So he cried. He screamed at the road and cried. It was scary. For the first time, he wasn't Dad. He was just this man. This man whose wife had killed herself. And in that moment, I understood what love looked like. It was grief. And it was tears. And it consumed you so that you swore at your child and screamed at the road. Love is pain. Now we go fishing instead of talking. That way we can pretend to bond. I try not to touch them, but the day usually ends with me throwing up and him yelling at me for coming along, and we both have a good time. I know he's glad I'm there, even though he hates it. begs, knowing that the answer is always yes. I said I'd meet Jack. I said I'd meet Jack, and if I go with you, Mum won't ask questions. Abigail is my best friend. We grew up together, and we tell everyone that we're cousins, even though we met in nursery. Funnily enough, we are now actually cousins. My mum's sister's son had a kid with her mum's niece. So we're like second cousins once removed or something, but we're so used to saying that we're cousins that that's just what we are. So will you come with me? Do I have to? Can't we just stay home and watch a film? I said I'd meet Jack. Jack was her first boyfriend. You look well pink today. Stop it. No, I'm serious, babe. You got all dressed up for me. She was wearing a tracksuit. So I knew that this wasn't love. This was the teenage facade of love, the performance of what it means to be an adult, all while running around behind our parents' backs like little kids. Back then, for her, that's what love was supposed to be like, the jealousy and wanting. Sometimes I think he wanted her so badly it made him feel sick when he couldn't have her. Jack was a very jealous boy. I don't think he ever really let her go, not even after they broke up. Sometimes she'll still tell me about how he'll message her. How are you? We like catching up sometime? Sometimes I still think about us. And she'll reply, you have a girlfriend, dickhead. And we will laugh about how he's pathetic and how she could ever have thought that what he felt was love. Look back on his controlling behaviour and how he guilt-tripped her. And we will laugh because we were young and stupid. We laugh. What we don't talk about is how the boyfriend after that was exactly the same. And the boyfriend after that. And the boyfriend after that. After Jack S was Jack H, who was taller, had a nicer jawline, but was exactly the same. Rude, jealous, controlling. I love Abigail. I love her entirely, but I don't think she's ever really known what love is. My first boyfriend was also called Jack, except he wasn't half as jealous as Abigail's. He was almost the entire opposite. Intelligent, argumentative, entitled, barely interested in me. If I wanted his attention, I would text him to meet me at the stairs by the little Camps Theatre. We'd hook up on those stairs. I gave him a lot of head on those stairs. I had a nosebleed on his dick on those stairs. Do I want to? No? Okay. It just felt good to kiss someone. To kiss a boy, specifically. And when we were together, it felt good to have someone want me. First time I saw his dick was in the same quarry that I met Abigail's Jack. Finally forced him to spend some time with me outside of school. So we were sitting on the quarry, looking out over the horizon, making out. He was kissing me, kissing my neck, fighting me when he felt like it. I could feel little Jack pressing against me. And that's when he took one of my hands and started to move it down. And I thought, fuck it, I'll let him move it. Dicks are weird. That was my primary takeaway. Like, I was fairly familiar with my own at the time, but touching someone else's, it's like, what the fuck, dicks are weird. It's like fleshy and hard when you touch them, and his was smaller than mine, which was also weird. So, you know, I was there, I was wanking him off, and he was, you know, making sounds and the sort, enjoying it. His hand was in my hair, and that's when he gripped it tight and pulled my head up to look at him. And I opened my mouth. I don't know why I did it, it just felt right in the moment. And I knew enough about sex at the time to know what that meant. I don't think it was very good. It was my first time after all that he, you know, so can't have been that bad. And I was on my knees for him. He just looked so powerful like that. His was on my face. And that's when he took his finger, swiped it off, and held it out to me. I was silent for a moment as I stared at his resting on his finger, and that's when I opened my mouth and no! Oh, maybe not for the drama band. For the first time, I thought of love and sex as the same thing. It was new and it was exciting, a new way to love. So if he wanted to meet me the stairs by the theatre, I was more than happy to love him like that. Funerals are weird. Especially for a child, you don't really understand what's going on. Why is Grandma crying? Why is Dad so quiet? And why is this forever? My clothes were itchy and Dad was working so hard not to cry again. He cried when he was alone. It's weird when your parents become people, become mortal, die. Funerals are weird. We put lilies on the coffin. Life doesn't go the way you planned. I thought that university would be my ticket to falling in love. You always read about it in cheesy rom-coms. I'm in my third year now, and all I'm feeling is stressed and depressed and drowning in essays and coursework and anything but dick. I dated a guy once. Well, I wouldn't really say dated, we met on Grindr. It was like 2 days after he broke up with the boyfriend he was living with at the time. Not a great situation for him. He sucked me off in the park near our houses. It started off as sex, not even sex. His mouth on mine, my mouth on his. His name was Ed, and with him it was bliss. For a while, I stopped talking to other people. It was him. Him. He consumed my mind. And maybe this was love. For the first time, it felt like love might be on the table, that maybe there was this guy, this sweet, kind guy, who might be able to love me. We need to talk. Is it serious? Yes. Good serious or bad serious? He came to see me that evening. Stood in my too small room. I could smell him. Smell the incense that he burned that had wormed its way into his skin. I wanted to kiss him. But his face, he didn't. I shouldn't. He wouldn't look at me. I am so sorry. Yeah. It's not you. You are so amazing. You are so kind and lovely and intelligent. Then why won't you love me? If I am so amazing and kind and blah, 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 then why won't you love me? I didn't say that. I just said, Yeah. We hugged. I might have smelled his hair. I'm not proud of that, but it smelled really fucking good. Then he walked away. He had a great ass. And then I cried. I went home for a weekend after that. Dad didn't know at first I was drinking. Alone. In my room. I don't know what overcame me, but I started to walk downstairs. Dad stayed in the sitting room, that was his room. It looked over the street. I stood in the doorway and stared blankly into the room. Dad, I think that Mum would hate the person I've become. I think that I might be selfish and awful and narcissistic and... I think Mum would hate me. Your mother never hated anyone. Go to bed. And I did. I want to tell you a fun story. Annoyingly, I only seem to remember the sad ones. How about the story of my first girlfriend? Now I know what you're thinking. You are as queer as the day is long, to which I respond, how long is the day? Yeah, but your silence is a really good fucking question. Apart from the fact that it makes no sense, but I'm the one talking here, so you can shut the fuck up. I had my first girlfriend when I was in year 2. Her name was Lauren Lee. Which sounds fake, but isn't. I was 6-ish, and when you're 6-ish, your girlfriend is so important. It defines your life. You plan your wedding. Well, your friends plan your wedding. They make you walk down the aisle and hold hands, and your best friend's the minister. We don't have a minister. Okay, who looks scared? You. Thank you, I'd really appreciate it. If you just stand in the middle. I don't know the Bible. Why would I own... Okay, that's basically a Bible. You just put out your hands. Beautiful. No, you have to. And your best friend's the minister, which feels like a conflict of interest. You leave the church. So can I have my book back? Props. And all your friends throw confetti at you. There were leaves, but that's not the point. And they all make that sound that kids make the whole goddamn time. And you that believe that it's going to last forever. Spoiler alert, it didn't last forever. Turns out those sorts of weddings are not legally binding. Turns out, 6-year-old Abigail, not ordained by the church. I don't remember much from back then, but she did put her coat, a yellow raincoat, over our heads and gave me a kiss. Just a little peck on the lips, but it was the first time I'd been kissed by someone I wasn't related to. And it's like, what the fuck? Kissing is weird. I'm an obsessive overthinker, so I did the worst thing that you can do in a romantic situation. We were 6-ish, wasn't that romantic? And overthink. And it's like, why are we just smacking? Yes, smacking. Our face holes together. Gross. she ran away. It was very much a bigger deal for her than it was for me. It was the talk of the playground for the remainder of lunch. No one could shut up about it for like 10 minutes. But then we had to get back to class. We were learning about the Cottingley fairies, which was vastly more important, and the kiss was immediately forgotten. Now, I know that this is all supposed to be about discovering and learning about love, but I don't think I learned anything. And I know that's a massive cop-out. You all came here expecting this great and profound show, and you're getting this, which is a bit shit, so I'm sorry. But if I'm being honest, as I have been so far, I don't really remember it. Like, it definitely happened, I was definitely there, but I don't really remember it. A woman is crying in the room next door. Should I be crying too? That's what kids do. They cry and they cry and they... Maybe I should be crying too. I'm not. I'm not crying. Me and Dad are sat together. The bench is uncomfortable and the corridor's cold. Mum's in the morgue. They told Dad that they were cleaning up the body. I'm confused. Mum was very clean. She did all the tidying, but it's taken a long time. Grandma's on her way. Granddad really shouldn't be driving anymore. I think Dad made an exception in this case. The woman in the other room is still crying. I wonder if maybe her mum is also dead. Oh my God. My mum's dead. Finally hits me. But I still don't cry. Don't really remember it. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Baby. Sorry, no? Okay, right. Let's talk about sex. Your first time is always supposed to land on one end of a pendulum. Film and TV always tell you about how your first time is supposed to be magical and amazing and full of grand revelations about yourself, and most importantly, it is supposed to be with the love of your life. On the other hand, people always tell you about how their first time was terrible, and they felt obligated or felt rushed into it, and it's usually with another inexperienced person, so it's entirely just a little bit shit. My first time was something I'd been anticipating for a while. Not with excitement, not with fear, just sort of wanted it over with. I found a guy on Grindr. His name was... I know his name. his name was Ryan? No. John? Sam? 4 letters. Okay. I don't know, something plain. He was alright looking, nothing to write home about. He was good. Enough. That's all he had to be. He said all the right shit. Is this okay for you? You feel amazing, you're so gorgeous. All the shit he was supposed to say. He was kind and caring and really considerate about my comfort. And it was absolutely, entirely, without a doubt, boring. Barely even a story. He was so busy making love to me that he forgot to fuck me, and there is a very big difference. I didn't have any grand revelations. There weren't any fireworks going off, or sprinklers, or any other movie metaphors for amazing, brilliant sex. It was just fine. And I didn't really see what the big deal was. Nothing changed for me until Patrick. Patrick was gorgeous. He was tall and strong and fucking sexy. Patrick was perfect. He messaged first. Hey. Hey. How are you? I'm alright. Looking for fun, mates, whatever. Go with the flow. Nice, me too. You into? Dunno, haven't tried much. You open? Yes. Willing to learn? Yes. I think that we're going to have a lot of fun together, darling. I mean, Jesus, that's sexy. Patrick and I together was complicated. Difficult to explain, which is great for this medium. Instead of breaking my back trying to explain all the gritty details, I'm going to break it down into 3. 3 titles, 3 chapters of our relationship that, collated, should make it easier to understand. Like a collage of vignettes. The first is teacher, then performer, and finally, tormentor. 3 chapters that encompass him entirely. So, I think we should get started with the Patrick saga. Chapter 1, teacher. He insisted that our first time together be at my place. That way we can both be comfortable, was how he put it. So I met him at the door and walked him up the 8 flights of stairs, 8 flights of stairs, to my room. Patrick had the power to take possession of any space that he was in. As such, I walked into his room. He sat on the bed, a space open in front of him. He gestured. I sat. Are you going to be good for me, darling? Yeah, no. No. Don't speak. I nodded. Do you want to be good for me, darling? I nodded. Good. He kissed me. He pulled away first and stopped me when I breathed in. No. We should talk, darling. It's fine, just let me sit. Listen. I sat, I listened, and he talked. He talked for a while, took me through safe words and rules, made it okay for me to say no to him, made it something comfortable. It was easy with him. Our first night together was simple. I think he was breaking me in, making sure I was ready for later. But even then, in the early days, Patrick brought me to life. Sex with Patrick was electric. It was fireworks and sprinklers and all of the movie metaphors that it hadn't been before. And even before we really started to get into his interests, he had the power to make me melt with just 2 words. Good boy. He was kind and gentle and rough and violent. And he did everything right. I could never be bored with him. Chapter 2. Performer. His friend watched us once. I'd seen this guy whenever Patrick would take me out. He watched me with him. I could never tell if he wanted me or wanted Patrick. I still can't. That day I'd gone round to Patrick's, and when I walked in, he was there. You remember Tom, darling? I nodded. They were sat together on the sofa, watching me carefully. Now I know this is new, but trust me, and be a good boy. Good boy. There it was. And I melted. Patrick had fun that night, more than usual. He made the bed and the table and the sofa and the counter his stage, performing for Tom, who watched with a quiet intensity, his hand never leaving his trousers. Tom never touched me, not until the end, when Patrick waved him over, a smile across his face. He kissed me. His hand on my throat, his hand in my hair, kissed me like I'd given him the greatest gift in the world. That night, I could feel my skin vibrating under the attention of these 2 men. Love was attention, devotion, eyes watching you. Right? Patrick let me stay the night. It was a long walk back, and I was tired for obvious reasons. I gave him head the next morning, and walking home, I felt drunk. Chapter 3. Tormentor. This is a short chapter because we really should move on from the Patrick saga, but there is so much more to tell, all wrapped up in the violent wanting. It permeated every aspect of my life, making me itch and burn, and I dreamt of him. A single text from him would make me sick with excitement. Every second of silence was torture. And then when we were together, he played these games. Vicious games, sometimes cruel, pain and pleasure and his sweet torment all at the same time. And I was too blind to see how utterly toxic it was, too joyful to let it go. Patrick moved away about 6 months after our first night with Tom. I still think about him sometimes, clearly. I haven't spoken in nearly 3 hours. Dad is silent too. House is quiet. The street is quiet. The world is quiet. Mum is quiet. The dead don't speak, and Mum doesn't speak. I haven't spoken in nearly 4 hours. Speak. Please, Mum, the dead don't speak, so please, Mum, just one word. Just one word. of stitches in her skin, mending the torn seams and binding her pages back together. Blood. Dried. They tried to hide like ink, splattered across her pages, turned brown by time. Blood. Dried. It could not hide from the inspection of a child just wanting his mother back. It's too much for a child. The morgue of our house is cold. Don't go in the bathroom. She was in the bathroom when Don't go in the bathroom. Thank God it's tile. Easier to clean. Say something, please! I haven't spoken in nearly 5 hours. I'm counting the silent minutes, too scared to ask for something to eat. The grown-ups aren't in the mood for childish requests. I make a sandwich. Jam and butter. We've written instructions in class. My own story. How to make a jam sandwich. Bread. Butter. Jam. The knife falls from my hand. Jam. Bread. Splattered across the bread like ink. Turned brown. On the edges of her bindings. I'm no longer hungry. I haven't spoken in nearly 6 hours. And all I'm left with is... Why did you do it, Mum? Didn't you think about consequences? Quiet houses, torn pages, splattered ink, a knife covered in jam. Didn't you think about everything you were destroying when you... It's the worst question to ask. Why? Why? An 8-year-old's favourite word, favourite question, favourite... But you should never ask why. Why? And now I'm left alone, without the comfort of why, the image of your body seared into the back of my mind, present whenever I close my eyes. I haven't spoken in nearly 6 hours, but I'm only 8. So I ask a question. As 8-year-olds often do. Are you going to leave me next, Dad? He holds me. No. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. I didn't see him for a week. Sorry. Sorry, that wasn't supposed to happen. That won't happen again. Now, Ed, do we all remember Ed? The guy with the great ass? Yeah. The one that smelled incense? The it's not you, it's me guy? Well, one day I messaged Ed. Back when we were together, he bought me this ring. It was this little fidget toy ring. I kept stealing the one he had, so he bought me one. And I was wearing this ring, maybe for the first time since he broke up with me. and I saw him on Grindr. He was back on Grindr. He hadn't been around since we broke it off. And he messaged me. Hey. How are you? It's been a while. Hey, yeah, I've been alright. How have you been? Yeah, not too bad. Busy with uni and shit, you know. Yeah. I regret it, you know. I was silent for a moment. Was this going the way I thought it was? Regret what? The way I ended things? No. I think I was scared. Scared of it ending, so I cut it short. With respect, that's idiotic. Yeah, it is. Ed, is this leading up to something? Only if you want it to. Yes! God, please, that is all that I want! I wrote. The only way to find out is to ask. If I wanted to try again, would you? Yes. Are you sure? We would have to start slow. You broke my heart. I really thought that we could go somewhere and you put an end to it really out of the blue, but yes. I would try again. My friends all told me it was a terrible idea. He broke my heart, but he would do it again. I don't care. He did break my heart again. I don't care. And we were back in bliss. Breakfast. Then Mother cut sandwiches and put them in a bag along with 3 cakes each. She sent Joe to pick some plums from the garden and told Beth to take 2 bottles of lemonade. The children were most excited. Father set off to town and the children waved goodbye to him from the gate. Then they tore off indoors to get the bag in which their food had been put. They said goodbye to their mother and slammed the cottage door. Adventures were in the air that morning. They said goodbye to their mother and slammed the cottage door. Careless. As time goes on, Mum fades from my memories. She always made sure to read me a bedtime story. It was Harry Potter or The Famous Five, Percy Jackson or The Hobbit. She didn't have time for children's books. That night it was The Magic Faraway Tree. She was my gateway to monsters and magic and happily ever after. She introduced me to books. Books were everything. Reading took me out of this world and into somewhere better. Introduced me to bonds that could withstand anything. Introduced me to true love. And that was all thanks to her. Her. Her body was cold to the touch. Pale. Pallid. I was angry. Angry that I was angry. could you leave me behind? I was only 8! This was too much. This wasn't the story that I was supposed to be in. I don't remember her voice. How tragic is that? My own mother's voice. What did you sound like? Did you do voices for the different characters? How did you say my name? My love life has been a mess as of late. As I got older, what I wanted changed. The books I was reading changed. I no longer wanted the fantasy, the pretend. I wanted someone I could trust. That, at least, was unfamiliar for me. So I think I was acting for it then, at least. The time I fell for my friend. I get crushes on guys really easy. An overactive imagination mixed with a love of romance means that I create relationships in my head with the cute guy in class, the random customer at the restaurant I work at, the guy I passed in the street that one time. Imagined how they would see me and realise it was true love, so I wasn't surprised when I started to have feelings. We were close, almost the same brain. There was no one I felt that comfortable around, so I think in some ways it was inevitable. No one understood me the way that he did. He would walk me home, halfway back to mine. We'd been at his, and when we talked, time just passed so easily. How could I help myself? Part of me is wondering whether he's here. Listening to this, putting the pieces together, part of me hopes that he is. Looking back on all the moments, wondering how he didn't notice. Maybe he already knew. Maybe I'm the fool, unaware of his awareness. The other part of me is begging that he doesn't know, isn't aware, isn't here. Let me live in his ignorance. Let everyone forget. But this isn't about him. This is quite possibly the most important story that I will tell. The culmination of everything that I've learned up until this point. So I'll start by saying this is a love story. This is a story of true love. All the books I was reading, the fantasies, the fairy tales, they always had true loves, the prince who comes to save at the end of the day. And that is what I wanted, to be in love. And now I think I am, but it's not at all how I thought it would be. And it all started with him. Him. My feelings for him only grew, evolved, manifested. It became a joke. I would fake swoon to make our friends laugh, an inside joke just for us. And maybe it was mean to exclude him. But it was my way to cope. And in the end, no one was harmed. No one but me, so. We laughed. I laughed. My feelings grew beyond containment. I would lie in bed, thinking of him. His name on my lips would make me smile wider than I had before. He was my first thought in the morning, my last thought at night. I ached to be with him, but being around him was like a dagger. in the gut. It was the epitome of unrequited. I knew. I always knew he had feelings for another. The three of us were this unit, something I'd never anticipated, a copy and paste twice over. We'd talk in our own languages, in riddles, in rhymes, like Faye wandering the earth. I had found my people. Good people. All the while, hiding the feelings that grew in my chest like briars, twisting and ripping through flesh and bone, always attempting to spill out of my mouth with blood and with thorns and bile. A mess of secrets and feelings. I stayed silent. I tended to my garden of briars. I cut back the rose heads, allowed myself to be pricked by the thorns that grew by the thousands. We spent what felt like all of our time together. Texting, playing D&D, a hobby which had turned into, let's be honest, an unhealthy hyperfixation. And drinking. I have this vivid memory. The three of us on the floor in the kitchen. Me on his shoulder. Them on mine. The three of us. A unit. And we talked. I don't remember what we talked about, just that we talked. That's how it always was. Talking. I think I might kiss him. He's right there, and his lips are hanging open, and his eyes are alive, alive, alive. Carry on, Rainbow Ralph. This is my favourite book. The first time I read it, I finished it at midnight, then opened it up and read it again. This book had me by the throat. I love this book. And this quote, this line, it means everything. Alive, alive, alive. Life isn't easy. People are not easy. The world doesn't like what it doesn't understand. My differences made me a target growing up. Alive, alive, alive. And I felt so dead. All these years of loneliness and torment, I just wanted to be alive. And his eyes are alive, alive, alive. A party. Maybe I'm a little drunk. We're joking, laughing about my feelings. Me and them walking home. I have feelings for me too. Laughing, joking, misery and pain, all four. But this isn't about him. This is about us. I'm not giving them names. They would prefer to remain anonymous, and I don't think that I should give them replacements. It just wouldn't be right. No one could replace them. Our relationship is truly impossible to put onto paper. They are my reflection, my other half. And I know that if they're here, I am blushing and attempting not to make eye contact, but it is easier to be sincere when you're forcing somebody else to say it. So, if you are here, if you are listening, I love you. And I know that we say it all the time, but I really do mean it. This whole thing would be completely different without you. And by thing, I mean life. Being alive. You've made this whole thing easier. The story of me, you, and him, ironically isn't about him. He could have been anyone. We've had this conversation. But you are you. And I couldn't have asked for better. I felt so guilty. All the friends down in the south, a group holiday, and it was lovely, and it was so simple. But there was this one night, dancing, music, and quiet talking on a warm summer's night. The two of you had spent the evening connected at each other's hips. Really? You two had spent the evening connected at each other's hips. It was ridiculous, even back then, to think that neither of you knew you had feelings for each other. So you're back again, aren't you? Okay. All of us were talking about it, some of us more than others. You two were dancing, and another one of our friends was there. You were having the time of your life, and I was in the other room on the verge of tears, because why couldn't it be me? And I know it's selfish, it is so selfish, but it is never me! Never me! And then there was the guilt because you are my best friend, and how could I take it away from you? Me and him were sharing a bed, sharing a room with the person that you want most in the world is like sharing a room with an open fire. They are constantly drawing you in, and you are constantly stepping too close, and you know it's not good, that there is no good, that no good can ever come of it. But you do it anyway. And then you burn. Carry on, again. My life was becoming this twisted version of my favourite book, one where Simon and Agatha end up together and Baz is left alone in a coffin. And that week was amazing, but every night was torture. Do you know how much he hogs the covers? I'm sure you do now. And it's crazy. Even that made me smile. When we were close, I would allow myself to imagine a fantasy of us without you. And it's so horrible because you two were so happy and you are so good for each other, and how could I take it away from you? And I am so sorry, I am so deeply sorry for ever feeling that way. The day he asked you out was the same day Ed rejected me. You all remember Ed? The guy that broke up with me and then rejected me, and then we got back together in whatever way we were together. Well, a while ago I'd started a conversation with Ed. Is this going anywhere? It's okay if it isn't, but I just need to know because I think I can find myself falling for you and I need to know whether or not that's foolish. Truth was, I'd already fallen. My feelings divided between my best friend and the man in my bed. It's almost Shakespearean. A while later, Ed was round again. It was a Friday. 2 days after he had found out you had feelings for him, he'd told me at a party. It was a Friday and Ed was over, and that's when he told me. You know that conversation you want to have? Well, I figured it out. And I don't. I don't feel like it's going anywhere. I'm happy with how things are. I don't want it to change. And there we were again. Heartbroken. 2 times in 3 days. I mean, who has that luck? 2 rejections in 3 days. But you were happy. So I smiled. And I laughed and laughed and laughed because you were happy. Love is sacrifice. You give something up. You sacrifice your own happiness. For them. For you. This is the last time I will talk about her, my mum. I promise we're nearly there, just one last story. She'd been dead for a while now, 9 years or so, but still, everything was shit. I was the victim of bullying and ridicule, and it all came to a head with a hate crime. Some year 8 idiot had made a fake Snapchat account under my name and started messaging other year 8s asking for nudes. He then screenshotted it, put it on his story, and tagged my sister. Get your brother in line. All that to tease my sister. I didn't even realise it was a hate crime until the police said so. Dad insisted we report it. This kid had tried to destroy my life, my prospects, made me out to be this predator, all to bully my sister. I just wanted my mum. And I was alone. I was desperately alone, and I just wanted my mum. But she was gone. It's the closest I've come to understanding how she must have felt. Dad found me, sitting on the bathroom floor, crying, staring at the spot where she died. And in that moment, I understood. Why she did it. Why? When I told you about that, about her, you listened, and that meant the world to me. So I'm sorry that you're hearing all these stories again, but it's important because as we approach the end, there is one last thing we need. A conclusion. And that conclusion is... there isn't one. No conclusion. No final thought, no peroration about love. I mean, I'm only 20. Not old enough to have a conclusion, just ideas and assumptions and brief flashing moments of thought. And so I am sorry, because in the end we're exactly as we were when we started. Me and you, in this together, as clueless as we were ever in love. But if there's one thing that all the men, all the Patricks and the Toms and the Jacks and the Eds, they all taught me something. They all brought me to this moment. Standing here, loving you. Not in the way that I expected love to be, but it's better. Somehow, without Prince Charming or Simon Snow or Percy Jackson, instead, it's you. The person I could tell anything. The person I had given my heart to. And so in a funny way, this did become exactly what I promised. A love story. But not to a man. Not to him. To you. So maybe I've done it. Maybe I have written something just as profound as Arte, and it's not 8 days before I die. Or maybe it's not that profound, and maybe nothing I write ever will be. But I have got my whole life to live. I have got so much time to fall in love again and again and again, because I'm only 20. I'm not old enough to be writing a biography or making any conclusions. I can't guarantee anything. Maybe I will die in 8 days. Maybe I'll die in 80 years. But until then, I'm going to love and have my heart broken. And after it all, we will laugh and laugh and laugh until I fall in love again. Now, I promise I'm almost finished, but there is one last thing that I would like to say. So, before you all clap and come onto the stage and tell me I was great, tell me how amazing it was, I would like to make a dedication. I know this is unusual, but I couldn't leave without speaking my piece. So, stay with me, but I would like to dedicate this show to me. I don't mean me, I mean the me writing this. Sat on the sofa, watching Dimension 20, getting annoyed at the housemate making annoyingly good edits to my script. Me sat up in the corner, where the director sits, probably smiling ear to ear. To the boy I was, to the person I am, and to the man I hope to become. And I would like to ask everyone here to dedicate something to themselves. Dedicate your morning or your evening. Dedicate your time and your energy, love yourself and your work, and dedicate a drink to you, because you're pretty great. So, in my final moment, as this script I have poured my heart and soul into takes its last breath, I ask you to join me in a toast to me.